Hello, my name is Erin Hecht, and I am one of the co-instructors for this course. To introduce you to this course, I would first like to introduce you to this guy, Nico Tinbergen. He was a scientist who spent a lot of time just sitting around and observing animals. As he put it, watching and wondering. He was interested in why different animals behave the way they do and how those behaviors evolve. For example, when you were back in Cambridge, you might have seen these creatures flying around. And you might have noticed that they have this little red dot on their beaks. And you might also be aware that the chicks peck at that dot in order to get their parents to feed them. How did that behavior evolve? And why is that red dot there in the first place? Well, Tinbergen figured this out, and also other things like how certain wasp species navigate and what triggers certain types of fish to defend their territory. His work ended up winning a Nobel Prize and becoming the foundation for an entire field of science called ethology. In this course, we're going to ask you to follow in Tinbergen's footsteps and watch and wonder about human behavior. So for example, what makes us attracted to certain people but not others? Why is our species capable of both noble, selfless deeds and terrible atrocities? And can understanding these questions through an evolutionary lens help us address humanity-wide problems like sexual violence, pandemics, and climate change? In this course, you will approach our own species the same way Tinbergen approached seagulls, wasps, and fish, using an ethological framework to understand how and why our behavior has evolved. I'd also like to tell you a little about myself. I'm a neuroscientist, and my lab studies brain evolution. Our research compares human brains to our closest primate relatives in order to understand what makes us unique. Another area of our research looks at different breeds of dogs as a sort of natural experiment on how brains evolve new behaviors. So for example, we're trying to understand what makes border collie brains good at herding and beagle brains good at following a scent. We also study experimentally domesticated foxes, which are a model of how wolves evolved into dogs, and maybe also a good way to understand how humans became more socially tolerant in our own evolutionary history. If you take this course, you'll learn more about the possibility that humans might ourselves be domesticated in a sense, and you'll also get to see a little more of my own favorite research subjects, Lefty and Izzy. That's one of their favorite hangout spots right back there. So perhaps the most important adaptation in the human brain is that it's wired in a way that allows us to watch what someone else is doing, reproduce that behavior, and then make incremental improvements on it. This is what's called cumulative culture. And it's what allowed us to go from making this type of technology to this type of technology in an evolutionary eye blink, just a few thousand years. And for comparison, chimpanzee technology has remained basically frozen during that same time period. The evolutionary implications of this are profound. It means that we can inherit patterns of perception, cognition, and behavior, not just through biological evolution like other animals through our genes, but also through cultural transmission of words and ideas. So for example, I am not biologically related to Nico Tinbergen, but academically, he's my great-grandfather. He trained a scientist, who trained another scientist, who trained another scientist, who trained me. And if you take this course, you too will be part of this chain. So I hope to see you this fall.